Welcome, bike. If you've found a home here for your nightly rest, a quiet harbor in the stream of your day, consider subscribing so you never lose your way back to this quiet space. Tonight, we journey to a place where whispers of history echo through silent halls, where the ghosts of scholars and kings still roam. We are in Alexandria, Egypt, standing before a modern marvel built in homage to an ancient legend, the great Library of Alexandria. But we are not here to see it in the bright light of day. Our journey begins as the sun dips below the Mediterranean and the stars begin to claim the sky. Join me for a nocturnal journey as we unlock the starlit secrets of the Library of Alexandria after dark. The original Library of Alexandria was more than just a collection of scrolls. It was the intellectual heart of the ancient world. Founded in the 3rd century BC by Ptolemy I, a successor to Alexander the Great, it was a beacon of knowledge, attracting the greatest minds of the age. Mathematicians, poets, philosophers, and scientists from across the known world gathered here. Imagine Archimedes, Euclid, Eratosthenes, walking these grounds, their minds ablaze with ideas that would shape civilization. They calculated the circumference of the earth, mapped the stars, and wrote epic poems that are still studied today. This wasn't just a library. It was a university, a research center, and a temple to the muses. It was here that the sum of human knowledge was collected, translated, and preserved. But as with all great legends, its story is tinged with tragedy. The library's decline and eventual destruction, likely a slow process over centuries of conflict and neglect, represents one of the greatest cultural losses in human history. The knowledge lost in its flames is immeasurable, a void that historians and dreamers have tried to fill ever since. As we step inside the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina, the air itself seems to hum with the weight of this legacy. The architecture is breathtaking. The main reading hall, a vast, cascading space, slopes downward like a tiered amphitheater under a magnificent circular roof. This roof, tilted towards the sea, is designed to resemble a second sun rising from the Mediterranean, a symbol of enlightenment. At night, the effect is hypnotic. The interior lights cast a warm, golden glow, creating pools of brilliance amidst the deep shadows. The ceiling is dotted with skylights, which during the day would flood the space with natural light. But now, they are dark eyes, looking up at the star-filled Egyptian sky, connecting this modern sanctuary of knowledge with the cosmos that the ancient astronomers of Alexandria once charted. Walking through the main reading area at this hour is a surreal experience. The usual daytime hustle is gone. There are no crowds, no shuffling feet, just a profound, echoing silence. The empty desks and chairs stand like silent sentinels, waiting for the scholars of tomorrow. It feels as if we've stepped into a space outside of time, a bridge between the ancient world and our own. The sheer scale of it is humbling, capable of holding 8 million books, a testament to our enduring quest for knowledge. Our first stop on this special after-hours tour is the Manuscript Museum, housed in a secure, climate-controlled section of the library. This is where the tangible echoes of the past are preserved. The low lighting here is deliberate, designed to protect the fragile ancient texts from fading away. As our guide unlocks the doors, we enter a realm of immense historical value. Inside glass cases lie scrolls and codices that have survived millennia. We see fragments of papyrus, covered in hieroglyphs, Coptic scripts, and ancient Greek. Each one tells a story, not just in the words it contains, but in its very existence. Think of the hands that wrote these words, the eyes that read them by candlelight centuries ago. One of the highlights is a collection of rare Arabic manuscripts on science and medicine, showcasing the golden age of Islam, a period when scholars in this part of the world carried the torch of knowledge, while Europe was in the Dark Ages. They preserved and expanded upon the works of the ancient Greeks, ensuring that wisdom was not lost forever. Seeing these texts, some of the only surviving copies of certain works, is a powerful reminder of the library's original mission, to gather and protect the world as knowledge. It's a direct link to the intellectual heritage that the old library embodied. Leaving the manuscripts behind, we wander towards another unique feature of the Bibliotheca, the Sadat Museum. This section is dedicated to the life and legacy of Anwar Sadat, the 3rd president of Egypt and a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. While it might seem like a modern addition, its inclusion here is significant. It connects to the ancient history of this land with its more recent, complex political journey. Walking through the exhibits, we see personal belongings, military uniforms, and the very desk where he planned a peace treaty with Israel. The displays tell a story of leadership, conflict, and a relentless pursuit of peace. Seeing these artifacts in the quiet of the night, away from the daytime crowds, allows for a more personal and reflective experience. It reminds us that history is not just about ancient scrolls and long-dead kings. It's a living, breathing narrative that continues to unfold, shaped by the courage and convictions of individuals. It's a poignant counterpoint to the ancient knowledge housed elsewhere in the library, a testament to the fact that the human story, with all its triumphs and tragedies, is always being written. Now, let's ascend. We're heading up to the higher levels of the main reading area, looking down upon the vast terrace et haut. From this vantage point, the library transforms into a landscape of light and shadow. The rows of bookshelves create geometric patterns that stretch out below us, a labyrinth of learning. The sheer volume of books is overwhelming in the best possible way. Each spine represents a world, an idea, a lifetime of work. It's a physical manifestation of our collective human consciousness. The silence here is different. It's not empty. It's full. It's filled with the potential of every unopened book, the silent conversation between author and reader that is waiting to happen. The nighttime atmosphere amplifies this feeling. The library feels less like a public institution and more like a sacred space. It is in moments like this that you can truly appreciate the library's role, not just as a repository of information, but as a source of inspiration. It's a place that encourages curiosity, contemplation, and the quiet, personal journey of discovery. Looking down, you can almost imagine the ghosts of ancient scholars moving between the shelves, their spectral forms illuminated by the moonlight filtering through the gray glass ceiling. Our final stop takes us outside, to the plaza in front of the library. Here, we find the iconic granite wall. Carved into the Aswan granite are characters and letters from 120 different human scripts, a beautiful and powerful celebration of language and communication from all over the world. At night, spotlights illuminate the wall, making the intricate carvings stand out in stark relief. It is a stunning visual metaphor for the library's mission, to bring together the diverse voices of humanity into a single, harmonious whole. Standing era, with the gentle sea breeze carrying the scent of salt from the nearby Mediterranean, you feel a deep connection to history. This is the same sea that brought traders, soldiers, and scholars to Alexandria's shores thousands of years ago. It's the same sea that Alexander the Great looked upon when he founded this city. The modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina is more than just a magnificent building. It is a promise. It is a promise to the past, honoring the memory of the great library and the knowledge it represented. And it is a promise to the future, a declaration that the pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and open dialogue will forever be a guiding light for humanity. The Library of Alexandria, both ancient and modern, stands as a timeless symbol of our unquenchable thirst to learn, to discover, and to understand our place in the universe. Have you ever wondered how the legendary Library of Alexandria became the greatest center of knowledge in the ancient world? We often imagine a serene place of scholarship, but the real story is far more aggressive and, frankly, a bit like state-sponsored piracy. Let's unravel the secrets of how Alexandria built its unparalleled collection. The Ptolemaic dynasty, the Greek rulers of Egypt, were obsessed with one thing: acquiring every single book ever written. Their ambition wasn't just about knowledge for its own sake. It was a power move. To be the intellectual capital of the world was to be the capital of the world, period. And they weren't afraid to get their hands dirty to achieve it. Imagine you're a merchant or a traveler sailing into the bustling port of Alexandria, one of the busiest harbors of the ancient Mediterranean. As your ship docks, you're not just met by customs officials checking your cargo of wine or grain. You're met by royal agents, book hunters, whose sole purpose is to search your vessel from top to bottom. What are they looking for? Scrolls. Any book, any manuscript, any piece of written text you have on board was subject to confiscation. This policy was known as the ship shakedown. It was an official decree from the Talon. Every single book that entered the city by sea was seized. Can you imagine the shock? You arrive with your family's precious copy of Homer's Iliad, a text you've carried with you for personal reading or study, and suddenly it's taken away by the state. Now, the Alexandrians weren't just common thieves. They were organized. Once seized, the scrolls were taken to the library's scriptorium, a massive workshop filled with scribes. Here, a decision was made. If the library already had a copy of the text, they would often keep the original you brought, and especially if it was of higher quality, and give you back a freshly made copy. If it was a new text they didn't have, well, congratulations. You've just made an involuntary donation to the greatest library on earth. They'd make a copy for you, but the original stayed with them. This practice was so systematic and well known that the library amassed a collection of originals that was the envy of the world. They were essentially creating a master archive. This process earned the Ptolemaic kings a nickname: the book-collecting kings. Their hunger for knowledge was insatiable. They sent agents across the known world to Rhodes, to Athens, to every major book market with enormous budgets to buy up whatever they could find. One famous story involves Athens. The Ptolemies wanted to copy the official state versions of the great Greek tragedies by Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. These were considered national treasures in Athens. The Athenians were reluctant, so Ptolemy III offered a huge sum of silver, 15 talents, a fortune back then, as a security deposit just to borrow them for copying. The Athenians agreed. But Ptolemy had a trick up his sleeve. He kept the priceless originals and sent back beautifully made copies, forfeiting his entire deposit. To him, the silver was nothing compared to possessing the authentic, original works of the great masters. This aggressive acquisition strategy worked. At its peak, the Library of Alexandria is said to have held between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. It's hard to get an exact number, but it was, without a doubt, the largest collection of knowledge ever assembled in one place in the ancient world. It contained everything from epic poetry and philosophy to mathematics, astronomy, and medical texts. This systematic confiscation and copying created a hub of intellectual activity. Scholars, scientists, and writers flocked to Alexandria because it was the only place where they could access such a vast range of materials. It was the Google of the ancient world, but with a much more forceful way of building its database. So, when we think of the Library of Alexandria, we should remember this dual identity. It was a brilliant beacon of learning and scholarship, but it was also fueled by a ruthless and pragmatic policy of confiscation. Was it piracy? Or was it a necessary policy for the preservation and advancement of human knowledge? The line is definitely blurry. It highlights a fascinating tension between the rights of the individual and the state's ambition for cultural supremacy. Now, let's talk about the tragic end of this literary empire. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria is one of history's greatest intellectual catastrophes, but it wasn't a single event, like a great fire that consumed everything at once. It was a slow, painful decline over several centuries, a death by 1,000 cuts. The first major blow came in 48 BC. Julius Caesar was in Alexandria, caught in a civil war between Cleopatra and her brother. During the fighting, Caesar set fire to his own ships in the harbor to block the enemy's fleet. The fire spread. It raged through the docks and parts of the city, and many historical accounts, including those by Plutarch, state that a huge number of scrolls were destroyed. Some scholars believe this fire hit warehouses near the port where scrolls were stored, possibly even the ones recently confiscated from ships, rather than the main library building itself. But the loss was significant, perhaps. Tens of thousands of scrolls turned to ash. Even after this, the library and its associated daughter library at the Serapeum Temple continued to function. But the Golden Age was fading. The political instability of the later Roman Empire meant less funding and royal patronage. The city of Alexandria itself was often a site of riots and conflict. The next major catastrophe was ideological. As Christianity grew in power within the Roman Empire, the old pagan world came under attack. The library and its texts were seen as symbols of paganism. In the late 4th century, the political climate turned hostile. In 391 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius the first issued a decree to close all pagan temples. In Alexandria, this decree was enforced with zeal by the Patriarch. He led a mob that marched on the Serapeum, a magnificent temple that housed a significant part of the library's collection, the so-called daughter library. The temple was sacked and destroyed. What happened to the scrolls inside is a matter of debate. Some were likely destroyed on the spot, seen as heretical pagan texts. Others may have been scattered, stolen, or moved. But this event marked a massive, irreversible loss. It wasn't just about destroying a building. It was about erasing a cultural and intellectual heritage that was now deemed dangerous. Throughout these centuries, smaller-scale destruction continued. Riots, neglect, and the simple decay of papyrus scrolls in a humid climate all took their toll. There's a persistent myth that the library was burned by Arab invaders in the 7th century. But most modern historians dismiss this as a later fabrication. The real story is a far more gradual and complex tragedy. By the time the Arabs arrived in 642 AD, the great institution was likely a shadow of its former self, its collections long dispersed or destroyed by centuries of warfare, political turmoil, and religious conflict. So, the story of the Library of Alexandria is a powerful lesson. It shows us the incredible heights that human ambition for knowledge can reach, but also the fragility of that knowledge. The same city that so aggressively collected books from around the world ultimately could unprotect them from the forces of history. The tale of its rise through state-sponsored piracy and its fall through centuries of conflict serves as a timeless reminder of how precious our centers of learning truly are. Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians, managed their vast libraries without computers or even the Dewey Decimal System? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of ancient papyrus, unlocking the secrets of how these precious documents were stored, organized, and preserved for thousands of years. Imagine a world where books didn't have hard covers. Instead, knowledge was recorded on long rolls of papyrus. But how did you keep these scrolls safe and find the one you needed? The answer lies in a brilliant piece of ancient technology: the papyrus spindle. This wasn't just a simple stick. The spindle was the core around which the scroll was wound, providing structure and support. Many scrolls also had a small wooden or bone rod, called an umbilicus, attached at the very end, making it easier to roll and unroll the document. Some even had decorative knobs, or cornua, on the ends of the umbilicus, adding a touch of elegance to these ancient books. Now, with a library full of identical-looking scrolls, how did ancient librarians find anything? This is where another ingenious invention comes in: the syllabus. Think of it as the ancestor of the modern price tag or book spine label. A syllabus was a small piece of parchment or papyrus tied to the end of the scroll. On this tag, the scribe would write key information: the title of the work, the author's name, and sometimes even a brief summary. It was essentially the Dewey Decimal System 1.0. This simple tag transformed a chaotic pile of scrolls into an organized, searchable library. Librarians could quickly scan the syllaboi hanging from scrolls stored in pigeonhole-like shelves or cylindrical boxes, called capsi, to locate the exact text they were looking for. But storing these scrolls was only half the battle. Preserving them was a monumental challenge. Papyrus is an organic material, made from the pith of the papyrus plant. Over time, it becomes incredibly brittle and is highly susceptible to humidity, which encourages the growth of mold and fungi that can literally eat away at history. Just handling a fragile, ancient papyrus fragment requires immense skill and care. The fibers can easily break, turning a priceless document into a pile of dust. So, how did ancient people protect them? And how do we protect them today? Ancient preservation methods were rudimentary. They relied on keeping scrolls in dry environments, which is why so many have survived in the arid climate of Egypt. They were often stored in ceramic jars or wooden chests to protect them from light, dust, and pests. Fast forward to today, and the science of papyrus conservation has evolved dramatically. Modern conservators face the same enemy's brittleness and decay, but they have a whole new arsenal of tools and techniques. One of the biggest jobs for a modern conservator is piecing together fragments. Many papyri are discovered in a shattered state, like a historical jigsaw puzzle with thousands of pieces. Experts meticulously align fibers, match handwriting, and follow the lines of text to reconstruct the original document. It's a painstaking process that can take years, but it's essential for bringing these ancient voices back to life. Conservators are also constantly developing new ways to protect papyrus from environmental damage. The focus now is on non-invasive, reversible, and sustainable methods. You might be surprised to learn that one of the most innovative new techniques involves, of all things, wasabi. Researchers discovered that a compound in wasabi, called allele isothiocyanate, has powerful antifungal properties. It can be used as a vapor to fumigate papyrus, eliminating harmful mold without using toxic chemicals that could damage the delicate material or harm the conservator. This environmentally friendly approach is revolutionizing the field. Proper storage today is a science in itself. Ancient papyri are kept in climate-control rooms with stable temperature and humidity levels. They are housed in acid-free folders and boxes that prevent chemical deterioration. Every step is taken to minimize stress on the material and halt the process of decay. Why go to all this trouble? Because every fragment of papyrus is a direct link to the past. From epic poems and philosophical treatises to everyday shopping lists and personal letters. These documents provide an unparalleled window into the lives and minds of people who lived thousands of years ago. They are the tangible memory of ancient civilizations. From the simple but brilliant design of the papyrus spindle and the organizational genius of the syllabus to the high wasabi-powered conservation methods of today. The story of papyrus is a testament to humanity, as enduring quest for knowledge and our desire to preserve it for future generations. The journey from a fragile plant growing on the banks of the Nile to a carefully preserved artifact in a modern museum is a long and delicate one, reminding us of the incredible value held within these ancient scrolls. Have you ever walked into an old library or archive and been hit by that distinct smell of old paper and wood? It's a scent that tells a story of time and knowledge. But have you ever wondered how these precious collections have survived for centuries, resisting the silent, creeping threat of humidity? The answer, my friends, lies in something we often overlook: the shelving. Today, we are diving deep into the art and science of building shelving units that not only look good, but are engineered to last a lifetime, protecting your most treasured possessions from dampness, mold, and pests. Let's start with a journey back in time to the magnificent historical libraries of the Renaissance. Ever heard of a Plutus? It sounds fancy, but it was a genius invention. A Plutus was essentially a combined reading desk and bookshelf, often arranged in rows. What was so brilliant about this design? Airflow. These early librarians understood that stagnant, humid air was the enemy of preservation. The Plutés were designed to allow air to circulate freely around the precious manuscripts and papyrus scrolls, preventing moisture from settling and causing decay. This concept is just as relevant today as it was 500 years ago. The #1 rule in fighting humidity is to keep the air moving. So, how do we apply this ancient wisdom to our modern homes and workshops? The first and most crucial technique is to build away from the walls. I see this mistake all the time. People push their bookshelves flush against an exterior wall. This is a recipe for disaster. Walls, especially exterior ones, can be cooler than the rest of the room, causing moisture in the air to condense. They can also be prone to unseen leaks or rising damp. By leaving a gap of even a few inches between your shelving unit and the wall, you create a channel for air to circulate. This small space is a powerful barrier, preventing a microclimate of damp, stagnant air from forming behind your books or stored items. Think of it as giving your collection room to breathe. Now, let's talk about placement. Not all spots in a room are created equal when it comes to humidity. Before you even start building, you need to become a bit of a detective. Map out the high moisture zones in your space. Basements are the obvious culprit, but also look for areas near bathrooms, laundry rooms, kitchens, or single-pane windows that get a lot of condensation. You can use a simple, inexpensive tool called a hygrometer to get accurate readings. Move it around the room over a few days to identify trouble spots. Armed with this knowledge, you can strategically place your shelving in the driest parts of the room, giving your belongings the best possible chance of survival. This simple act of mapping can save you a world of heartbreak down the line. Once you've got the placement sorted, it's time to think about materials. This is where you can really make a difference. Using the wrong wood or material in a humid environment is like building a boat out of paper. You need to choose materials that are inherently resilient to moisture. For a wood, think about climate-adaptive options. Woods like teak, cypress, and cedar have natural oils and properties that make them resistant to rot and insects. They've been used in shipbuilding and outdoor furniture for centuries for a reason. If you're on a budget, don't despair. Moraine-grade plywood is a fantastic option. It's manufactured with waterproof glue, designed to withstand wet conditions without delaminating or warping. Avoid materials like standard MDF or particle board in damp areas. They act like sponges, soaking up moisture, swelling, and eventually disintegrating into a moldy mess. Investing in the right materials up front is an investment in the longevity of both your shelves and what you store on them. The design of the shelving unit itself is your next line of defense. Remember the Plute? The key was airflow. So, when you're designing, think open. Solid-backed bookcases can trap air, but designs with slatted or open backs are far superior for ventilation. Even drilling a series of large holes in a solid back panel can dramatically improve air circulation. Another brilliant approach is to go modular. Modular designs, made of separate, movable components, are not only flexible for your changing storage needs, but also make maintenance a breeze. If you suspect a moisture problem, you can easily move a section, clean behind it, and inspect the area without having to empty and move an entire massive unit. This ease of access encourages regular cleaning and monitoring, which is vital for preventing problems before they start. Let's also consider the shelves themselves. Instead of solid planks of wood, consider using slatted shelves or even wire shelving in very high humidity areas like a garage or basement. This maximizes airflow not just around the unit, but through it, ensuring that every item gets the benefit of air circulation. And don't forget the finish. Applying a high-quality moisture-resistant finish is like giving your shelves a raincoat. Polyurethane, marine varnish, or even certain types of oil finishes can create a durable barrier that repels water and prevents it from soaking into the wood. Make sure to coat every single surface, including the undersides and back edges, for complete protection. But what if your environment is just naturally humid and passive solutions aren't enough? This is where we bring in the big guns. Active humidity control. If you're serious about preservation, especially for valuable collections, investing in an advanced dehumidification system is a gain. Modern dehumidifiers can be set to maintain a specific humidity level, automatically turning on and off to keep the environment perfectly balanced. For a whole house solution, you can integrate a dehumidifier into your HVAC system. For a specific room or a large shelving unit, a standalone dehumidifier will do the trick. Consistent humidity levels, ideally between 40 and 50%, are the gold standard for preventing mold growth, paper degradation, and wood warping. Beyond the air inside, we also have to think about the building envelope itself. Proper insulation and drainage are foundational to humidity control. Ensure your walls are well insulated to prevent cold spots where condensation can form. Check that your gutters and downspouts are clear and directing water away from your foundation. If you're in a basement, consider sealing the concrete walls with a waterproof membrane. These might seem like big projects, but they address the root cause of many humidity problems. Creating a dry, stable shell is the first step to creating a safe storage environment inside. Finally, the most important habit you can cultivate is regular maintenance. Building the perfect shelving unit is a fantastic start, but it's not a set-it-and-forget-it solution. Create a simple maintenance schedule. Once every few months, take the time to inspect your shelves. Look for any signs of trouble. A musty smell, discoloration, white or black fuzzy spots, or warped wood. Check the wall behind the unit. Pull items off the shelves and check them too. Wipe everything down to remove dust, which can attract and hold moisture. This regular check-in allows you to catch any potential issues early when they are small and easy to fix. This proactive approach will prolong the life of your shelves and protect your collection for years, even decades, to come. So, to recap, mastering humidity control is a multi-layered strategy. It starts with smart design inspired by historical wisdom, like building away from walls and prioritizing airflow. It involves careful planning, like mapping moisture zones and choosing climate-adaptive materials like moraine-grade plywood or teak. It continues with clever construction, using modular designs and finishes that create a barrier against dampness. And it's sustained through active management, whether that's using a dehumidifier or simply sticking to a regular maintenance schedule. By combining these techniques, you're not just building a piece of furniture. You are creating a specialized environment, a safe haven designed to protect your belongings from their greatest natural enemy. You're building shelving units that are truly built to last. Have you ever wondered how we know so much about ancient Greek literature? How did all those plays, poems, and philosophical texts survive the centuries? The answer, in large part, lies with one man. A poet, a critic, and a librarian named Callimachus. His work didn't just preserve knowledge, it completely revolutionized how the ancient world thought about it. So, grab your metaphorical library card, because today, we're journeying back to the legendary Library of Alexandria to uncover the story of the Pynex, the world's first super catalog. Imagine a library with hundreds of thousands of scrolls, but no Dewey Decimal System, no search bar, not even an alphabetized card catalog. That was the challenge facing the scholars at the Library of Alexandria in the 3rd century BCE. It was a treasure trove of human knowledge, but without a system, it was chaos. Finding a specific work by Sophocles or Plato would be like finding a needle in a massive papyrus haystack. This is where Callimachus stepped in. He wasn't just any librarian. He was a brilliant scholar with a vision. He understood that to truly use this vast collection, it needed to be organized. So, Callimachus embarked on a monumental project, one that would consume a significant part of his life, and result in a 120-volume masterpiece known as the P, which translates to tables or lists. But this was no simple list of titles. The Pynex was the most ambitious bibliographic project the world had ever seen. It was a comprehensive, critical catalog of every significant work in Greek literature up to that point. It was, in essence, the ancient world's Google search, but meticulously curated by a genius. So what made the Pynex so revolutionary? First, its sheer scale. 120 volumes. That's an entire library just to catalog another library. Each volume was filled with detailed entries that went far beyond just a title. For each author, Callimachus would provide a short biography, listing their teachers, their background, and other interesting details. He then listed all of their known works. But he didn't stop there. He included the first line of each work, making it instantly identifiable, and even gave an approximate word count. This was incredibly useful for telling different versions of the same text apart, and for understanding the scope of a work before you unrolled the entire scroll. The real game changer, however, was his system of categorization. Callimachus was the first to divide the entire body of Greek literature into broad, logical categories. He created sections for poetry and prose. Then, he broke those down further. Under poetry, you'd find subcategories like epic, tragedy, comedy, lyric, poetry, and so on. Under prose, you'd find history, rhetoric, philosophy, and medicine. This might seem obvious to us now, but at the time, it was a groundbreaking idea. He was creating literary genres as we know them. Before Callimachus, a poem was just a poem. After him, you could specifically look for a tragic play or a historical account. This structure didn't just make things easier to find. It fundamentally shaped how people understood the relationships between different kinds of writing. Let's walk through an example. If you wanted to study the works of the playwright Euripides, you wouldn't just wander around hoping to spot his name. You'd go to the section of the Pynex dedicated to poetry, then to the subsection for tragedy. There, you'd find Euripides, listed alphabetically among the other. You'd see his biography, a complete list of his plays including some we've since lost and the opening lines of each one. You'd even find notes on which plays were considered authentic and which were disputed. It was a complete scholarly toolkit. This system allowed scholars to not only locate texts but also to compare, contrast, and analyze them within their proper context. It laid the foundation for literary criticism and history. But Callimachus was more than just a brilliant organizer. He was also a highly influential poet and critic with very strong opinions. One of his most famous quotes is, "A big book is a big evil." He was a champion of brevity, precision, and elegance in writing. He disliked the long, sprawling epics that were popular in his day, believing that shorter, more polished works were a sign of greater artistry. This personal aesthetic heavily influenced his work on the Pynex, and, by extension, the entire literary world. By categorizing and curating literature, he wasn't just describing it, he was shaping its future. His preference for concise, well-crafted poetry helped usher in a new era of literary style, influencing generations of poets, not just in Greece, but later in Rome as well. Poets like Catullus and Ovid looked to Callimachus as a model of literary excellence. So, the Pinaxos, more than a catalogue. It was a map of Greek culture. It was an argument for a certain kind of literary taste, and it was the intellectual foundation upon which future scholarship was built. Tragically, both the great Library of Alexandria and the 120 volumes of the Pinax itself have been lost to time. We don't have a single surviving copy. All we have are fragments and references in the works of later authors who used his system. But even from these echoes, we can feel the immense power of his creation. Think about it. Every time you browse a library shelf, search an online database, or even look at the genre tags on a streaming service, you are interacting with the legacy of Callimachus. His fundamental idea that knowledge should be systematically organized, categorized, and made accessible, the bedrock of how we manage information today. He transformed a chaotic collection of scrolls into a structured universe of knowledge. He taught the world how to build a library, not just of books, but of ideas. Callimachus's influence extends far beyond the library walls. By defining genres and creating a canon of important works, he helped solidify the very concept of Greek literary history. His work allowed scholars to see the bigger picture, to trace the development of tragedy from Aeschylus to Euripides, or to compare the different styles of orators. He provided the tools for a more systematic and critical engagement with the past. He wasn't just a librarian. He was an architect of knowledge, building a structure that would guide Western thought for millennia. The story of Callimachus and the Pinax is a powerful reminder that the way we organize information is just as important as the information itself. Without structure, data is just noise. Callimachus heard the noise of hundreds of thousands of scrolls and composed a symphony. He created order out of chaos and, in doing so, ensured that the voices of ancient Greece would continue to speak to us, clear and organized, across the vast expanse of time. He was the ultimate gatekeeper of knowledge, and his keys unlocked the future of scholarship. Have you ever wondered what happens when the world goes quiet? When the sun sets and most of us are asleep, a hidden world of dedication and artistry comes to life. Tonight, we journey into the shadows, into the enigmatic world of the nocturnal copyists of Thalyssera. These aren't just any scribes. They are the silent guardians of history, the keepers of fleeting moments, and their work begins when the day ends. What really happens after hours in the hallowed halls where they work. Join us as we unveil the secrets of the copyists' night shift. We'll explore the lives of these dedicated individuals who trade daylight for moonlight, dedicating their nights to a sacred task. These are the Nighttime Chronicles, the untold stories of copyists working under the soft glow of the moon, preserving the very soul of their culture. Our journey takes us deep into the twilight of creativity, into the haunting hours where whispers of the past are strongest. This is the dark art of nighttime copying, a world between shadows and scribbles. Forget what you think you know about dusty archives. We're unmasking the mysteries of the sleepless in the copy room, listening to the whispers in the dark that guide their hands. This is a journey through the copyists' midnight musings, an adventure into how a civilization's entire memory is saved from disappearing. In the mystical city of Thalyssera, history isn't just written in books. It's a living, breathing entity. But like all living things, it's impermanent. Memories fade, stories change, and the truth can be lost to time. This is where the Scribes Guild steps in. Their mission is a profound one: to record impermanence itself. They are cultural custodians, tasked with capturing the fleeting histories, the transient emotions, and the ephemeral moments that define their world. Their dedication ensures that the stories of Thalyssera, in all their richness and complexity, are preserved for eternity, defying decay in the passage of time. How do they achieve such a monumental task? It begins with their tools. The nocturnal copyists utilize unique methods and specialized inks that are as magical as the stories they record. These aren't ordinary pigments. Some inks are brewed under specific lunar cycles to capture the essence of a particular era. Others are mixed with finely ground crystals that resonate with the emotional frequency of the events being transcribed. Imagine an ink that shimmers with the joy of a festival or darkens with the sorrow of a great loss. These unique concoctions are designed for more than just visibility. They ensure a lasting record, embedding the very spirit of the moment onto the page. Their quills and brushes are equally special, often crafted from materials that have a direct connection to the histories they are chronicling, allowing for a deeper, more intuitive transcription process. But the tools are only part of the magic. The environment where they work is just as crucial. The copyists operate within sacred spaces, specially designed chambers that are acoustically and spiritually tuned to amplify the whispers of history. These rooms are built with ancient stones that hum with the memories of the past. The air itself seems thick with untold stories. The low, flickering light from bioluminescent fungi isn't just for illumination. It helps the scribes enter a state of deep focus, a meditative trance, where they become more receptive to the subtle echoes of time. In these mystical chambers, the boundary between past and present blurs, allowing for the most effective and accurate recording of history. One of the most remarkable skills of the nocturnal copyists is their profound sensitivity to context. They are not just transcribing words, they are channeling eras. A scribe working on a tale from a time of war will use sharper, more angular strokes. Their posture tense, reflecting the conflict in their very calligraphy. When recording a story of peace and prosperity, their lines become fluid and graceful. This sensitivity allows them to adapt their techniques to reflect the historical nuances of each story. They are historians, artists, and empaths all at once, ensuring that the transcription is not just accurate in fact, but also in feeling. They understand that how a story is told is just as important as the story itself. This incredible work is not a solitary pursuit. The Scribes Guild is built on a foundation of collaboration and collective effort. Senior copyists mentor apprentices, passing down ancient techniques and the philosophical underpinnings of their craft. Different scribes may specialize in different historical periods or emotional tones. They work together on vast, complex histories, weaving their individual strengths into a cohesive and comprehensive tapestry of Tali Sera's legacy. This guild collaboration ensures that no story is too large, no detail too small, to be preserved. They review each other's work, not for errors, but for authenticity, making sure the collective voice of the past is captured with clarity and respect. So, why do they work at night? It's not just a tradition, it's a necessity. The copyists believe that the veil between the physical world and the world of memory is thinnest during the quiet hours of the night. With the distractions of the day gone, they can better hear the faint whispers of history. The moonlight, they say, illuminates the soul of a story in a way the sun cannot. Their work is a form of deep listening, and the silence of the night is their greatest ally. They are true guardians of culture, their sleepless nights a gift to the future, ensuring that the vibrant, complex, and ever-changing story of Tali Sera will never be forgotten. The cultural significance of these scribes cannot be overstated. In Tali Sera, they are revered not just as record keepers, but as the very anchors of their society's identity. By preserving stories and histories through their careful, almost sacred transcription, they provide a continuous thread that connects the present generation to all those who came before. Children grow up hearing tales transcribed by the light of the moon, and they learn that their history is a precious, living thing, thanks to the tireless dedication of the nocturnal cop. These scribes are the quiet heart of Tali Sera. Their work a silent promise that the past will always have a future. They are the keepers of whispers, the painters of memory, and the true custodians of a legacy. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadows, into the mesmerizing world of the nocturnal cop. The next time you find yourself awake in the quiet of the night, think of them, diligently working to keep the flame of history alive. Have you ever wondered what makes the ink in your pen flow so smoothly, or how the vibrant colors on a printed page stay so crisp and clear? The answer might surprise you. It's not just about pigments and water. There's an unsung hero, a natural ingredient that has been crucial for centuries: gum arabic. Today, we're going to unlock the secrets of this remarkable substance and explore its incredible journey from a humble tree in Africa to the heart of the global ink supply chain. So, what exactly is gum arabic? It's a natural gum sourced from the hardened sap of two species of the acacia tree, primarily found in a region of Africa known as the Gum Belt. For thousands of years, this substance has been a cornerstone of commerce and innovation. Ancient Egyptians used it in everything from food to cosmetics, and even as a key component in their hieroglyphic inks. It's amazing to think that the same ingredient that helped preserve ancient texts is now at the core of our modern printing industry. Let's start with the very beginning of the journey, the harvest. The process is a testament to sustainable, traditional practices. Harvesters, often from local communities, make careful incisions in the bark of the acacia tree. Tray 10 bleeds a sticky sap, which dries into hard, amber-like nodules. This process, known as tapping, doesn't harm the tree. In fact, it is a vital source of income for millions of people and encourages the preservation of these important forests, preventing desertification. It's a beautiful example of how industry and ecology can work hand in hand. Once collected, these raw nodules, often called tears, are sorted by hand based on color and size, which is the first step in quality control. From the sun-drenched plains of Africa, the journey continues. The sorted gum arabit is packed and transported to processing facilities, often thousands of miles away. This is where the logistics get really interesting. Imagine coordinating shipments from numerous small-scale farmers across multiple countries. The supply chain has to be robust and efficient to ensure a steady flow of this crucial raw material. Any disruption, whether from weather, political instability, or logistical hurdles, can have a ripple effect on industries worldwide. Once it reaches a processing plant, the raw gum undergoes a transformation. It's cleaned to remove any impurities like bark or sand. Then, it's often dissolved in water, filtered, and pasteurized to ensure its purity and safety. The final step is typically spray drying, which turns the liquid solution into a fine, consistent powder. This powder is much easier to transport, store, and incorporate into various products than the raw nodules. It's this powdered form that most manufacturers, including those in the ink industry, receive. Now, let's get to the science. Why is gum arabic so essential for ink? It plays several critical roles. First, it's an incredible natural binder and emulsifier. Ink is essentially a mixture of pigments, or dyes, suspended in a liquid base, usually water or a solvent. The problem is, these components don't naturally want to stay mixed. They tend to separate over time. Gum arabic acts as the perfect peacemaker. Its unique molecular structure allows it to wrap around the tiny pigment particles, keeping them evenly dispersed throughout the liquid. This prevents the ink from settling and ensures a consistent color and quality every time you use it. Its second superpower is controlling viscosity, or the thickness of the ink. If the ink is too thin, it will bleed and feather on the paper, creating blurry lines. If it's too thick, it won't flow properly from a pen or a printer nozzle, leading to clogs and skips. Gum arabic is a master of flow control. By adding just the right amount, ink manufacturers can dial in the perfect consistency for smooth, controlled application. This is why a fountain pen can glide across the page without and why a high-speed industrial printer can produce razor-sharp images without clogging. It stabilizes the ink, ensuring it behaves exactly as it should. This stabilizing property is also vital during the printing process itself. In commercial printing, like lithography, gum arabic is used to treat the printing plates. It helps the non-image areas of the plate attract water and repel the oily ink, ensuring that ink only adheres to the parts that are supposed to be printed. This creates clean, sharp edges and prevents smudging, which is essential for high-quality books, magazines, and packaging. It's an invisible link that directly enhances the final print quality. The logistics of getting this fine-tuned ingredient to ink manufacturers are just as critical as its chemical properties. Think about the scale. Major ink producers need a constant, reliable supply of gum arabic that meets very specific quality standards. Supply chain managers must navigate a complex global network, forecasting demand, managing inventory, and ensuring timely delivery. They have to account for seasonal harvesting variations, international shipping times, and customs regulations. A single delayed shipment could halt a production line, costing a company millions. So, mastering the flow of gum arabic is a core competency for any successful ink company. What's truly fascinating is the versatility of this natural wonder. While we're focusing on income, arabic is a star player in many other fields. In the food industry, it's known as E414 and is used to stabilize soft drinks, make gummy candies chewy, and provide a glossy coating on confectionery. In pharmaceuticals, it's used to bind tablets and emulsify medicinals. And in cosmetics, it helps mascara adhere to Lashes and lotions maintain their texture. This widespread demand adds another layer of complexity to its supply chain, as different industries compete for the same high-quality resource. So, the next time you write a note, read a book, or admire a colorful package, take a moment to appreciate the unseen hero inside the ink. From a small acacia tree in Africa, through a complex global supply chain, to a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant, gum arabic makes it all possible. It's the triad of soot, or pigment, water, and gum arabic that forms the foundation of exceptional ink performance. This natural, sustainable, and incredibly effective ingredient is a perfect example of how ancient wisdom and modern technology can come together to create the products we rely on every single day. Its journey is a story of nature, community, and sophisticated logistics, all working in harmony to bring color and clarity to our world. Have you ever wondered how people in ancient times dealt with the terrifying threat of fire, especially in cities built mostly of wood and filled with flammable scrolls and textiles? It might surprise you to learn that many of their fire safety strategies were incredibly clever and formed the very foundation of the fire prevention techniques we use today. From the organized firefighting brigades of ancient Rome to the smart use of fire-resistant materials, the past has a lot to teach us about protecting our homes and valuables. Let us dive into the forgotten art of fire prevention and see how these ancient ideas are being reimagined to keep us safe in the modern world. First, let's talk about one of the biggest culprits in historical fires: ignition sources. Back then, open flames were a part of daily life. Think oil lamps, candles, and cooking fires. A slight gust of wind or a careless moment could spell disaster. The Romans, for example, were acutely aware of this. They established rules about where and when fires could be lit, especially in crowded apartment blocks called inns. Today, our ignition sources have changed, but the principle remains the same. We're not so worried about oil lamps, but we have our own fire hazards: faulty wiring, overloaded power strips, and hot surfaces on appliances. The core lesson from history is clear. Control your ignition sources. Regularly check your electrical cords for damage. Don't leave cooking unattended, and be mindful of static electricity, especially in dry environments. It's all about proactive management, a lesson learned centuries ago. Now, imagine a library filled with priceless, handwritten paper scrolls. How would you protect them from fire? The ancients faced this exact problem. They didn't have sprinklers, but they had something else: brilliant architectural design. They built libraries with stone floors and walls, creating natural fire breaks. They also strategically placed large water basins or reservoirs within their buildings. These water watch wonders served a dual purpose. They were a ready source of water for dousing flames, and also helped to increase the humidity, making the dry scrolls less likely to ignite in the first place. This concept of compartmentalization and having suppression tools at hand is central to modern fire safety. We see it in fire doors that automatically close to contain a blaze, and in the requirement for fire extinguishers in every building. The idea of using fire-resistant materials is also more relevant than ever. While we might not be building with solid stone, we use fire-rated drywall, concrete, and special coatings to slow a fire's spread, giving people precious time to escape. But what happens when a fire does start? The ancients knew that a quick response was everything. In Rome, Emperor Augustus created the vigils, a corps of watchmen who were both firefighters and a police force. They patrolled the streets at night, looking for signs of fire, and were equipped with buckets, pumps, and even axes to tear down burning material and create fire breaks. This was the world's first organized, public firefighting service. Their existence highlights the importance of early detection and a coordinated response. Today, we've automated this process. Smoke detectors are our modern vigils, standing guard 24/7. When they sound the alarm, they give us the critical early warning needed to get out safely and call for help. For high-risk areas, like server rooms or archives, we've even developed automatic extinguishing systems, such as gas flooding systems, that can suppress a fire without using water, which could damage sensitive electronics or documents. It's a direct evolution from the Roman bucket brigade. Even with the best prevention, sometimes materials are still exposed to fire. What then? Ancient scribes and librarians knew the heartbreak of seeing knowledge go up in smoke. While many documents were lost forever, they developed techniques to salvage what they could. This often involved carefully cleaning soot off surfaces, and storing the fire-affected scrolls in controlled environments to prevent further decay. This principle of post-exposure preservation is a specialized field today. Conservators use sophisticated methods to clean, stabilize, and digitize documents damaged by fire and smoke. For us at home, it's a good reminder to have a plan for our important papers. Storing critical documents like birth certificates and passports in a fireproof safe or a fire-rated cabinet is the modern equivalent of an ancient stone vault. It's a simple step that can save you a world of trouble after an incident. Another fascinating ancient strategy was the use of fire-retardant treatments. While they didn't have the complex chemical solutions we have today, there's evidence that substances like alum were used to treat wood and textiles, making them less flammable. This is an early form of a practice that is now standard in many industries. Today, we use advanced fire-retardant solutions to treat everything from children's pajamas to the upholstery on our furniture and the curtains in public buildings. These treatments don't make materials fireproof, but they significantly slow down the ignition and spread of flames, which can be the difference between a small, manageable fire and a full-blown inferno. This ancient concept of actively treating materials to resist fire is a powerful tool in our modern safety arsenal. So, when we look at the whole picture, from controlling ignition sources to designing fire-resistant spaces, from early warning systems to organized response teams, and even preserving documents after a fire, it's amazing to see how the fundamental principles have remained the same for thousands of years. The ancient world, through trial and devastating error, laid the groundwork for modern fire safety. They understood that preventing a fire was far better than fighting one. They used smart design, innovative materials, an organized community effort to protect their homes and their heritage. By understanding these historical strategies, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the safety measures we often take for granted today. So, take a moment to look around your own home, check your smoke detectors, clear the clutter, inspect your electrical cords, and think about your escape plan. You're not just following a modern checklist, you're participating in a timeless tradition of keeping ourselves and our loved ones safe from fire. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried in the sands of time? Imagine entire libraries of wisdom, philosophy, and history, vanishing not in a single fiery blaze, but through a slow, silent decay. This isn't the plot of a blockbuster movie. It's the real story of countless lost scrolls and ancient manuscripts, treasures that turned to trash through centuries of simple, heartbreaking neglect. Today, we're unraveling the hidden crisis of our forgotten heritage, exploring how these priceless relics were lost and what we're redoing now to bring their secrets back to light. Let's travel back in time. Picture a scroll, painstakingly crafted from papyrus or parchment. For its community, it might be a sacred text, a historical record, or a groundbreaking scientific treatise. But what happens when that community's priorities shift? What happens when a new ruler, a new religion, or just the slow march of time renders that text irrelevant, or even dangerous? This is the first step in the slow death of wisdom. Gradual abandonment. A text that was once central to daily life is put away, stored in a dark corner, and slowly forgotten. The hands that once carefully unrolled it are gone, and the new generation doesn't even know it exists. It's a quiet tragedy, happening without a single dramatic event. But sometimes, the destruction is far from quiet. Throughout history, knowledge has been seen as power, and those in power have often sought to control the narrative. This leads to intentional destruction. Think of the great library burnings of antiquity, moments when conquerors aimed to erase the identity of the conquered. But it was often more insidious. Texts deemed heretical or politically subversive were systematically hunted down and destroyed. Leaders and religious authorities would issue decrees, declaring certain scrolls forbidden. Owning them became a crime. This wasn't just about suppressing ideas. It was about erasing them from history itself, ensuring that future generations would never be exposed to what was considered dangerous thought. This historical suppression is a gaping wound in our collective knowledge, a deliberate act of cultural vandalism. Even without human intervention, the scrolls themselves were fighting a losing battle against time. The very materials they were made from were their own worst enemy. Papyrus becomes brittle, parchment cracks, and ink fades. These materials are incredibly fragile, susceptible to moisture, pests, and simple exposure to air. Without constant, careful preservation, they were destined to crumble into dust. Imagine a scroll stored in a damp cave or a dry, sun-beaten chamber. Over decades and centuries, the humidity or the heat would do its work. The writing would blur, the pages would fuse together, and what was once a vessel of knowledge would become a lump of decayed organic matter. The deterioration of these materials is a silent, relentless process, a natural countdown to oblivion. This natural decay was massively accelerated by a simple lack of preservation. We have this romantic image of monks carefully copying manuscripts in candlelit scriptoriums. And that did happen. But for every text that was painstakingly preserved, thousands were not. Why? Sometimes it was pure disinterest. A community might be struggling with famine, war, or plague. Preserving old scrolls was simply not a priority. There was no understanding of long-term conservation, no climate-controlled vaults. Knowledge was lost simply because no one had the time, resources, or foresight to save it. This lack of community interest created a vacuum where invaluable information simply evaporated. The guardians of knowledge disappeared, and the scrolls were left to fend for themselves against the elements. This problem wasn't just limited to small communities. Even larger institutions often fail to protect our written heritage. Think about institutional support, or the lack thereof. Throughout history, certain texts and languages have been marginalized. If a scroll was written in a language that was no longer spoken, or if it belonged to a culture that had been conquered or assimilated, it was often deemed unimportant by the dominant institutions. Libraries and archives have always had limited space and resources. They had to make choices. Inevitably, they prioritized the texts of their own culture, their own religion, their own language. The scrolls of marginalized peoples were pushed aside, left uncatalogued and uncared for in dusty backrooms, effectively excluding them from the official record of human history. For centuries, this was the sad, accepted fate of countless ancient texts. Lost, forgotten, or destroyed. But the story doesn't end there. In recent decades, a revolution has been quietly taking place. We are now in an age of incredible rediscovery. Thanks to new technologies, we are pulling secrets from scrolls that were once thought to be permanently lost. Multispectral imaging, for example, can reveal faded ink that is completely invisible to the naked eye. CT scanners, the same kind used in hospitals, can digitally unwrap scrolls that are too fragile to be physically opened, allowing us to read their contents without ever touching them. Take the Herculaneum scrolls. For instance, these were carbonized by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, turned into blackened, brittle lumps. For centuries, they were considered unreadable, but now, with the help of artificial intelligence and advanced scanning, researchers are beginning to decipher their contents, revealing lost philosophical works and giving us a direct window into the Roman world. Similarly, fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls that were previously thought to be blank are now revealing hidden text under infrared light. These recent rediscoveries are like a form of technological archaeology, digging not in the earth, but into the very fabric of the manuscripts themselves. This brings us to the unseen guardians of today. The logistics behind preserving what we have left are immense. It's a field that combines the meticulous care of a librarian, the scientific knowledge of a chemist, and the digital expertise of a data scientist. In archives around the world, specialists work in highly controlled environments. They monitor temperature and humidity down to the decimal point. They use deacidification sprays to halt the chemical decay of paper. They painstakingly repair tears with special adhesives and Japanese tissue paper. Every action is calculated to prolong the life of these fragile objects. It's a constant, high-stakes battle against time, a hidden crisis that these modern guardians are fighting every single day. So what does this all mean for us? The slow death of these scrolls is a profound lesson. It shows us how easily knowledge can be lost, not just through grand catastrophes, but through simple, slow-motion neglect. It reminds us that history is not a static book we can just read. It's a fragile tapestry that requires constant care and attention. The ongoing efforts to preserve and rediscover these texts are more than just an academic exercise. They are an attempt to reclaim pieces of our shared human story, to hear voices that were silenced long ago, and to understand our world more completely. Every rediscovered word is a victory against forgetting. The tragic logistics of the scrolls' decline, from gradual abandonment to the physical decay of their materials, serve as a powerful warning. But the new era of technological rediscovery offers a beacon of hope. It shows that even what seems irretrievably lost can sometimes be brought back into the light. The story of the lost scrolls is ultimately a story of resilience, the resilience of knowledge, and the resilience of human curiosity that refuses to let the past disappear into dust. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you found this exploration of our forgotten heritage fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of history. Let me know in the comments what piece of lost history you'd most like to see rediscovered. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.